Good day. It's day 89, and it is a good day. I left right in the middle of Holly trying to get out of trouble. And as I mentioned, in terms of the structure, this is intended to be the all is lost slash the word term I still haven't looked up yet. Night of the Dark Soul, Dark Night of the Soul. Probably getting tired of me saying that. Where's my book? I can't find it. It's here somewhere. Anyways, all right, let's see. So I think to me, at least until I change it again, this seems to be a pretty good all is lost. Hearing the thing from Paul and then obviously getting shot and basically being left at this. The pickup truck has got a flat tire. Um, Please give me some good news. Let's see. Who is. So we're in the cabin with Paul. Paul getting a call. Sometimes you start a scene and then you realize you just don't need it. But other times you realize you do. What's up, Mike? Oh, Mike is the man in charge, Mike Noble. It's fun. So this is 30 days after I wrote this, and so I'm kind of. So Mike has called Paul and told him something, which you may guess or you may not. And now Hogan we find in the woods safely, because I sort of figured, well, since Holly had all this trouble and everything, I don't really want to take away from it by Hogan getting found and then either something happening to him or he gets away or something. Because, again, that's not his part in the movie to be the hero. He's sort of he's not really the mentor. He's kind of a sidekick. He appears late in the movie. I postulated before that he sort of takes Paul's role, but he doesn't really. It's because obviously he's a quasi-semi-pseudo kind of love interest by the end, but it's more of a buddy thing, buddy love. Okay, just like that. So already I've got a problem because we've got Paul saying, I'll let her know, and then Hogan saying, I'll let her know. And I think it makes more sense that Noble would call Hogan and tell him whatever he's telling him. Okay. So they're checking to see where... She's checking to see where he is. Oh, look at me delete a chunk of scene. So heading off west. Come back and get me and we'll... All right, so this is... All right, so I'm tweaking this a little. They pulled the plug. Salerno gets the girl. Yeah, I think this went on a little long. Plus, I didn't really like it. That thing about I'll take my badge, that was kind of hokey, so I got rid of that. So, of course, she is telling him that because he's not going to go against the rules or whatever, that she's not going to be there when he gets back. And then she replies, give me a choice, meaning come and pick me up. All right, tell us they're safe. So these are just little tweaks. And now Abby is finding out about the airfield. That's where we're going. Disconnects. So, as you get toward the end of the story, everything gets a little more kinetic, and you don't have, hopefully, as long as conversations, people hang up or people run off or people slam the door before the conversation's really over, and it's like, oh my gosh, why did they do that? What's going to happen next? Which to some extent you should have throughout your script, but some people have those super frenzied openings And then they almost get the pace going so fast that when you slow it down to really let the story breathe a little bit, it becomes kind of too slow. So I think it is important. Obviously, you get, James Bond or Mission Impossible or whatever, where you have a super crazy stunt-filled opening, but that's kind of expected. And most stories, I don't think you want to start the clock ticking too soon. But as we go here, so we're basically 84, so we're basically into Act 3 here. And where does the turning point? I think I may have asked this before. Oh, here I go back to the beginning of the script. The turning point between Act 3 and 4, or between 3 and 4. Oh, look at that. I changed the dialogue after working on this for 88 days. I changed this. That's so crazy. It's one of those things where you read it and you kind of just go by it and then you go, I could make that better. My opinion, of course. So I would say the turning point is when Hogan calls Holly and tells him that they pulled the plug on it. And so, she's obviously not going to say, oh, well, we tried, but she's going to tell him, look, you either come with me or I'm going by myself. Now this, I think I mentioned this in a previous draft. I tried to make this tie in mostly so I could have that parallel dialogue when Rachel says it'll be okay, because that's what Holly says at the very beginning to Lexi. So I already explained that, could a 3 or 4-year-old girl have that memory? And I'd say under some circumstances, like a traumatic event, obviously, which this would qualify, that she could. And so, especially when Rachel brings it up, wow, look at that. This late in the script, what's my real name? Because in a very much earlier version, she mentioned that to Holly. Is that my name? Is that your name? Are you really Holly or whatever? So I'm kind of trying this out to see if it works. Semi-virgin writing. Would I want to? So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. But, again, you're into Act 3, you're gathering the team, you're executing, blah, 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 all that stuff. And this probably isn't the time for this dialogue to happen. I would say it's either got to happen earlier. It could happen when they first meet, but I don't even know why she would really care. I guess sort of curiosity, maybe, but I don't think it's a life or death situation. And when you think of it, if it's not, why include it in the script? That's a pretty high bar, isn't it? I heard that before. All right, so I'm playing with this dialogue, trying to get, again, that parallel between it'll be okay when one said it and what'll be okay from the other. Considering she was right, but you're not. Ooh, see how clever that is? She was right, it'll be okay. But when Rachel says it, it won't be okay. Isn't that just so clever? In a good way. And we got rid of that, what's my real name? I kind of like that short, 2 friends and an aunt. I don't see how that's possible, as in it'll be okay, but it doesn't really... I don't know that that's something that she would really say. So I just left it at that. Which, again, going from the less is more school of writing, at times less is more. All right. Yeah, and I mentioned this scene sort of, he pulls up, we see the tire in the middle of the road, and he knows exactly what's going on. Just some tiny little things here. See, the pickup truck, isn't that the truck that I'll catch up while I'm on the way? It's kind of a trick. I'm not saying it's an art or that I've mastered it, but when you interrupt dialogue, sometimes it happens in a script where you've written the whole line and the director goes, hey, cut her off before she finishes that sentence or whatever. But it's funny that knowing what word to stop on so you convey enough information but not too much, because sometimes you can put it in the wrong place, and then when you read it or you have someone read it or a table read or whatever, it just sounds really weird, and I don't know what that means. But like when Holly at the bottom of 82, come back and get me, and so if she said come back, and then obviously we wouldn't know what she was talking about. So take your time. Isn't that the truck that obviously he can't say? I mean, he could say, isn't that the truck that the bad guys used to take off? But by the time we get to, isn't that the truck that, I think that would be enough. Always the key, always just enough, not too much. All right, found the airport. Hopefully I got rid of that continuity or that story problem where Noble or somebody had already found it. And again, I mentioned this the time before. Now that Holly's driving them down in the truck, they're taking the main roads, and the utility van is taking the back roads. They probably have, if I did the math, it probably wouldn't work out right, because I'm sure the utility truck has a 20, at least a 10-minute head start, maybe 20. So could they really beat them down there? In the movies they can. I just deleted something. How full is it now? How full is it now? Yeah, that was a half glass empty much. Not sure. How's that glass? No, that's better, because again, if you make a reference and people have to think too hard about what is that referencing, like how's that glass now, or how full is it now? It's like, how full is the tank with gas, or your wallet with money, or what? So that I can't remember if I left that line in. I'm getting close to the end. I don't know if I've mentioned, but there's very few days left, relatively speaking. So hang in there with me, and I thank you for doing so. Okay. Whoops, I'm doing some new writing here. A little birdie. So who was that? Who could have it been? Couldn't have been Paul, right? It could have been... Who could have it been? I won't say, but I think you'll guess. Thought you could use this. So he gives him a monocular. It could be binoculars, but those monoculars are kind of more cooler. I don't know what the purpose is really of why you would favor one over the other. I never really thought of that. Just portability? Are they more higher powered? Maybe because there's not two of them, you don't have to adjust them as much or something. I'm not sure. Oh, that's right, because she got hurt. A little bit of new writing coming up. I would be very curious after you subscribe and like and share, to comment on a scene coming up here. I'll let you know when it comes up. It may be today, it may be tomorrow. But I realized that she got shot. Obviously, her jeans are ripped, and so she needs a new pair of jeans. I thought about, what size and all that, but that'd be kind of silly. Okay, I'll pick up as soon as I can. All right, I think that's better. What'd you find? Okay, so here comes maybe some new writing. Yes, so we see the blood. I realize that, they've got to have blood there. I don't know if are you okay? What happened? All right, so I'll just let this go without much commentary. Is that too stupid? And by that I mean Gary watches a moment too long before turning away. Carrying on that theme that I've mentioned several times, so I won't mention it again. Not really a theme, kind of a subplot, or a little quirk maybe. I don't know if that you're welcome to prove me wrong. I mean, that says what it intends, but I don't know if that's the best way for a 20-year-old to talk. And this thing about the fridge, I mean, carrying on the metaphor from earlier, she's got the monocular, but I didn't even specify if she dropped the gun in the, whatever gun that was, in the woods, because there's no mention of it in like the back seat or anything. So, and of course, Hogan never used his, so technically he still got the rifle he had before. So would they really get different rifles? Great question. Or do they just get out the monocular and then eventually the gun that she gives to Abby? Well, he's got a bulletproof vest in there too, I guess. Okay, that's all good. Listen, let's hope, yeah, that's better. Let's hope they haven't. My opinion, very rarely would I rewrite something and go, oh yeah, that's a lot worse. Although sometimes, I don't know if it's worse, it's just not good enough, and hopefully I'll come back and fix it. Let's hope they haven't indicates there's no wardrobe. And so this is, they're not going to stop and say, well, what exactly is your plan, Holly? And Holly said, well, your plan is you're going to look like your brother and you're going to sneak up there and you're going to run around and then they're going to chase you off. So, if you don't, as in if you don't want to, and then he just cuts it off. And I think that line, I'm all in like I should have been all along. Did I just write that line? Because that speaks a lot, or as they say, that speaks volumes. So I'm trying to get a feeder line. Sometimes you get the line that you want to deliver, and then you got to go back and set it up. Oops. Wow. All right. I kind of like that line about like I should have been all along. That is why I keep dated copies of the script. I kind of like that line because it really does say a lot. What's the plan? I may have to go revisit that. One of the few times where I think to myself, yikes, why did I delete that? There's a fly flying around my microphone. All right, so this is about the same. And I'm trying to make this fairly realistic. Obviously, it goes without saying, I would imagine that most 19-year-olds have not fired a gun, at least not a majority of them. And so she's not just going to take it and go, yeah, I'm going to kick their butt. So she's very, very hesitant. And I think, to me, I have no empirical evidence, but that seems a pretty reasonable way for someone like her to react. I know I had it a little more cutesy before when she talked about, I've seen Larry shoot one and all that stuff. Okay. The guys who borrowed the van from were part of a team. Okay, that's good. A little shorter. I didn't. So that's sort of like the parenting 101 thing. This quick change of subject, I think we can get away with it this close to the end. I mean, it's a little on the nose. How do you get to a place where you can only blah, blah, blah. And then, so it's kind of the same. Then she gets slapped and grabs it. And we have the reference to Holly. And this about Larry taking a leak, we won't go into that. Seems reasonable. And then, the top of 92 when he's in the bathroom, I didn't really want to completely describe it, but you know how in a small room, this would admittedly have to be very small, you can sort of climb 2 walls, and then you can put out your, sort of like the spider thing on American Ninja Warrior, where you can basically tuck yourself up there. And so that's what he does. And it never really completely explains it, which obviously you wouldn't want to do that before Clyde comes in, because that would ruin where he is. But you see him drop down afterwards, so you kind of know. All right, people getting shot, kneecap explodes. And I've talked about whether I wanted them to get killed or injured, or basically they're just out of the picture. So yeah, not so overrated. That's another one of those lines I was talking about, is will people remember back to when Larry and Lexi were talking in the trampoline park, and they were talking about ESP, and he said overrated. So that might be something where, if and when it gets made into a movie, they would have to make that decision. Maybe add a little bit to that line just to make sure, or do it both ways, see how it works, or completely change it. How dare they completely change it? Okay. Tiny little tweaks. It's always fun when you can go through a script and not change much. But on the other hand, it's fun when you go through a script and you go, ooh, I've got an awesome idea, and then you do change it. So the moral of the story is script writing is fun. Right? Okay. So I'm trying to get this... I'm as I mentioned in my last pass through, I'm trying and hopefully succeeding to get this between Lexi and Salerno, where it's not a long drawn out 3 or 4 page scene that becomes melodramatic or just totally overdone, and doesn't go by so fast that people feel like there's no payoff, and that, well, after all this trouble, Salerno wouldn't give up that easily. And that's something that I've kind of wrestled with. How much weight to give it, if it's realistic. And I'm getting some feedback on that. Thank you very much. And I'd appreciate yours. So leave another comment. But this, I mean, it basically, a page and a half kind of a back and forth. And, well, I'll withhold the feedback I've got for now. I'll tell you later. Definitely not, hopefully, what the audience was expected. I mean, even when Lexi goes up, many people might go, no, and that Salerno's going to grab her and drag her into the jet, and off they go. And then Holly's got to chase them, or, she jumps on the plane and does a Tom Cruise where it goes up in the air. But again, that's not really what the story is. And that's something I think is important to remember for me and for everyone, of what is the story you're telling. Because sometimes you get into a scene and it just gets super interesting, and the dialogue, you're just running on all 8 or 12 cylinders, or whatever the case may be. Or if you got an electric engine, I don't know how those are calculated, but you get done writing it and you go, oh my gosh, that was so good. And then you kind of move on, or you read it the next day and you go, is that really the story I'm telling? Is that diverge? Certainly you've got subplots and you've got B stories and all that stuff, but sometimes you get into something and it's like, that's not really the story. And then chop, chop, chop. Off it comes. Bang, bang, bang. All right, so this is, and so this is another thing that I mentioned before. I didn't want these turn into Black Widow and her sister or her archenemy fighting each other, and they suddenly have mad matrix skills or super ninjas or whatever, Power Rangers. So I wanted to make it realistic, and I didn't want to be underwhelming, and hopefully, just right-whelming. I guess you can be underwhelming, overwhelming. I don't know if you can just be whelming. I'll have to query that. So she, that little parallel where she twists Rachel's arm the same way that Lexi did, only harder. And then, of course, you've got the punch in the face, which she had told Paul she would need to bring closure. And I mentioned that before. So I just dressing this up a little bit. I don't know. That line, I'm sorry you had to see that. It's kind of a neat line. I don't know if it's too, of those quippy lines that it just don't really happen in real life. Not that this always happens in real life. I'm checking on the dinner. Do you owe me dinner? Because remember, they had sort of made that bet. So now again, bookends. You never answered my question about dinner. Am I going to change the line? Spell check. Oh, it's so funny. When you look up axe, you can technically spell it either way. Wow, there goes the day. That was a pretty long, good day. I hope you agree. Getting very close to the end. And I think that was November 28th. And that is really almost, well, I'll leave it another cliffhanger. But thank you for coming along on the ride, on the journey, if you will, getting down to the end. And once again, I hope you're either learning and or enjoying and or, you could be learning what to do, what not to do, or just getting a feel of, wow, that's kind of what it takes to write a script. I can't just go straight through and be done, which some incredible savants or geniuses can, but I can't. And if you're anything like me, wow, I won't say anything about that. All right, day 89, Screenwriter's Journey, over and out.